Hello, everyone. My name is John Blackmon, and I'm the CTO of eLearning Brothers, and I'm here today to talk to you about how to get started in VR training. So this is a piece of cake, right? How do we get started doing anything these days? Let's face facts, we Google it. Okay, so just go to Google, I type how to get started in VR training. Okay, let's see here, wait. Custom simulations, that's gonna be too expensive. Enterprise guide to scaling. I'm just starting out here. This looks like it's going to be expensive and it's going to be complicated. So I think by doing that, all we get done is we're just going to come up with more questions. I mean, to start with, what kind of images and videos am I supposed to use? What kind of camera do I use to create those images and videos? How do I build the content, which I've got all this stuff? How do I view it? Like, how am I going to distribute it, get it out to my people? They're used to using our standard LMS. How am I going to get this new kind of content to them? And then what are some examples of the way other people are using it? And it'll help me get started if I can see how other people are using it. Well, fortunately, those are the questions I'm going to answer in the presentation today. So first, let's look at what kind of images and videos you'll need. The answer is equirectangular images and videos. Now, that's a big, long word and probably a new word for most people. And the word itself is not familiar, but the format is something we see every time we look at a flat map of the round Earth. All of the features at the top and bottom of the map are stretched because they resolve into a single point at the top and bottom of the globe. Towards the center of the image, features are less distorted, and the left and the right edges are meant to wrap together. The actual files are simply JPEG files for the images and MP files for the video. They're very familiar file formats. That's the images and video files that we use today for everything that we do. So fortunately, you can work with them with the same image and video editing tools you use to work with standard images and videos. Here's an example of an equirectangular image of a road. The camera, or the person's view in this case, is standing in the middle of the road facing perpendicular to the road. So when this is wrapped around a sphere, you get the view you see in the right side of the image here, where you can clearly see the standing position of the road, but the ends have been wrapped around and the top and the bottom resolve into points. And so it takes this very distorted view and you get a much more natural looking view. Okay, so that's cool, new interesting stuff, but what kind of camera do I need to take those kinds of pictures? Well, I have some great news for you. You don't need this rig. This was actually created for a first-person VR movie called Agent Emerson, and it consisted of 24 4K cameras mounted all around the actor's head. That's a lot of overkill for our needs, and that really does not look very comfortable to wear. So it's a good thing we don't need that. So the answer is actually just any standard consumer 360 camera. And there are a lot of options out there on the market, a few of which I have pictured here. These cameras range from around $300 to $500, and these do quite well for creating immersive learning. Really, after you go above the $500 level, the next range starts around $3,000, and it really doesn't provide you with much of a difference that you can actually use. Some of the cameras, like the GoPro Max pictured on the top right, are waterproof, and so you can use them in other situations where you can't use others. And some, like the Insta360R, which is on the bottom left there, that can be used as a standalone action camera as well. The camera actually comes apart in pieces, and you can use it in a lot of different ways. These days, I film with the GoPro Max. I like the software that comes with it. I think it works very well, and the pictures are very clear. But that recommendation could change at any time. Technology is moving very fast in this industry. Now, if you want to see a camera comparison, complete with side-by-side photos to judge for yourself, I've written an article comparing a few of the top cameras, and I've provided the link here along with a quick scan QR code so you can check it out as well. So if you'd like to see that article, just go ahead and use your phone and scan that QR code, and you can take a look at the article which reviews some of the different cameras. Okay, so let's move on to filming the scenes. So filming is something we're all used to doing right now. We all film on our phones quite a lot these days, but filming in 360 it's similar, but there are many things you need to take into account when your users will be learning in VR. First and foremost, everything is in the shot. Really. Even directly under and above the camera is being filmed at all times. So you actually need to plan ahead with what to do with yourself while you're filming. In the photo above, I was doing a walkthrough of our office, and in each shot, I had to find a place to hide. And that particular one, I had to hide behind that pole, and I definitely had to straighten up, and I had to suck it in a little bit just to fit back there so you couldn't see me hanging out on the sides. But you also have the option of just being part of the scene you were filming. You can be one of the actors. If you're filming a scene with a crowd of people, be one of the people. If you're filming on a factory floor, be one of the factory floor workers. 360 cameras all come with a companion app for your phone that allows you to trigger the starting and stopping the video or snapping of the pictures remotely. So you'll be able to get out of the way if you need to. Then the roller coaster effect. So everyone, including me, films their first scene and has the camera move through the scene. The thought process is that we can simulate the user walking through the room. This should provide a more realistic experience. The first thing I created when I got my shiny new 360 camera was an office walkthrough, which I walked the camera through the office, and I introduced all the different people in the office. I actually even had a gimbal. I thought I could get it really smooth, and I could create walking transitions to the other rooms. This is going to be great, I thought. Don't do that. Just trust me on this one. What you're going to end up doing is make most of your users ill. The right way to do it is to have the user teleport through the area, clicking on hotspots where they would like to go next, and then immediately brought to that area. The issue here is that VR is very realistic, so your brain perceives that motion as your body moving. However, your inner ear does not. And when your brain and your inner ear get into an argument, your stomach becomes the loser of that argument, and you never want to put your learners through that. Camera positioning is also very important. The camera's perspective is going to be the user's perspective when they're immersed, and things definitely feel different in VR. If you're going to be a mentor, a narrator, or someone just talking to the camera or the person you're talking to in an interaction, you want them to be about 4 or 5 feet from the camera and kind of at eye level, or perhaps just slightly above eye level. It's comfortable for a person in VR to look straight ahead or even just slightly up. It's a very comfortable way to do it. You never want to get the camera too high or too low, because that can give you a floating feeling or even the dog's eye view while immersed. We had one customer who actually, in their example, they wanted to do a very realistic example of a person sitting there so you'd see their arms while they were working. So they actually mounted the camera on the person's head, on probably about a 4-inch mount. The problem was that person was actually pretty tall. He was the tallest person I've ever seen, and they added another 4 inches on top of that for the camera. You just felt like you were floating over everything that was going on. Stitching is actually a very important consideration as well. So the way 360 cameras work is they have 2 lenses, one on either side. Each takes around a 210-degree semicircle image or video. So you get this, what you see at the top here. It then comes with stitching software, and the software molds that together into an equirectangular image. It works by matching up the overlapping areas and then pulling them together based on matching algorithms. And this can have varying results depending on the camera and the software you use. And what this means from a practical standpoint is that you don't want to have the user focus on areas that are in the areas subject to stitching. Most cameras, that's the 90 and 270-degree angle from the front of the camera, similar to what is shown in the diagram above. These will always be less clear than the rest of the image or video, and sometimes there can be some pretty unusual artifacts right along the stitching zone. Most people assume that directly behind you is not going to look good. It's actually just as clear as what's in front of you. It's just that 90 and 270. I actually have some samples of what that looks like. So I have a 360-degree photo here of a pool backyard area, and it looks very crisp and clear in front and behind. Who is that guy right there? But if you look actually at the 270 area, you can see this is done with the GoPro Max, which is a very good camera, but all along that line, you can actually see it's kind of fuzzy along that line. That's that 270 line, and there's the 90 line. You can actually kind of see the stitching zone. It's not terribly bad, but it's there. You just don't want that to be the focus of what the user is working with. I've also heard many people say that you can use a phone to create 360 video, and that's true. You actually can. But let me kind of show you the results that you get with using your phone. So here is that same picture taken with a Google Street View phone, and what that does is you end up taking multiple pictures, probably a dozen or so pictures in different areas, and then the camera does a dozen stitches to put that together into a sphere. Seems great. My camera takes great pictures. My phone takes great pictures. Should be fine, right? Except that with all of those stitching zones, you end up with some really strange artifacts, and you get some architectural issues here that certainly are a problem here and there. And boy, That seems like a pretty bad health issue going on right there. Things you want to consider when using your phone. You probably don't want to use this for anything professional. You can do it for something quick. If you don't have the camera on you and you just want to see something, sure. But I can't imagine that that is what you want to be in your immersive training. All right, let's get back. All right, trapping your viewers. I actually see this done a lot. So this isn't necessarily putting them in a small space, although it could be that. It's actually usually putting them too close to a large object or too close to another person. This can create a very claustrophobic reaction, even though those are not claustrophobic. And if you do this with another person, you get the close talker situation where your personal space feels violated. This is very real. You really feel that. If you have an immersive helmet on and somebody violates your personal space, you feel like your personal space is being violated. Now, I'm absolutely guilty of doing this one as one of the scenarios that I use all the time in demonstrations. I filmed an alarm scenario on a factory floor. And in one of the scenes, I filmed against a large panel of buttons. I wanted a clear view as the user is going to have to make quick choices as to what to do in the alarm situation. So I got nice and close to that panel. And when you view the scenario via a web browser, it looks fine. You really don't see the problem. But when you put it in VR, you are right up against that panel and you just feel like you're pressed up against it. It's just very uncomfortable. It's just too large and you're too close. And I've had many users complain about it being too close and it giving them a personal space issue. Problem is, I don't have any way to get back to that area, so I can't refilm it. So I pretty much just show it on the web. Another thing you don't want to do is to make your learner a wallflower. So if you're just standing silently on the outside of the action, observing what is going on, you kind of lose that immersive feeling. Make sure that your user has a defined role in the scenario you're creating. You can even have your user play multiple roles within the same scenario to really empathize with each side of a situation. So the reason we usually create those kind of role play things is traditional courseware. When we're making role play, we do that by showing a role play to two people having a role play. With VR, it's important to remember that we're in a new medium and we can do things differently. Don't show me an interaction between two people. Make me one of the people in the interaction. Or better yet, maybe give me the opportunity to be both people in the interaction so I can really see what both sides are like. Okay, after the shot. So one thing that most new 360 videographers do not realize is that unlike 360 images, the raw video that comes off the camera is not ready to be used. When it comes off the camera, it's still in that dual spherical format, or sometimes it's in two separate files. But every camera comes with additional software that you'll need to use to post-process those videos taken by the camera. And it is specific to the camera. Each camera takes different ones. They line the images up differently, so the stitching process is different for each camera. So the software actually needs to go frame by frame and stitch those images together, which is why it's a large process not done on the camera. Okay, we filmed it. We've got that covered. How do we build it? Fortunately, this is the easy part. So Cenario VR is a VR authoring tool created specifically for immersive learning. All of your 360 videos and images arranged as scenes. And you use a familiar, almost PowerPoint-like interface to add interactive elements which allow you to create your experience. You can start with something as simple as a facility tour or introduction, or take it as far as a drag and drop part assembly with 3D models, spatial sounds, and motion paths around the scene. It's all up to you and what you want to create in your immersive learning. Okay, filmed it, built it. What are my options for viewing the content? The one that's often not thought of when creating immersive learning is simply viewing it through the browser. Any course you create can be viewed by the learner in any modern browser. It's the same way we work with our current e-learning, and it's very familiar. You simply navigate by clicking and dragging the sphere around. Selecting interactive elements, done with the mouse as well. It's not the best immersive experience. It's not as good as using a headset, but it's a great starting point, and it lets you dip your toes into immersive learning and allow it to be used by everyone in your organization. So delivering content on a mobile device, such as a smartphone or a tablet, gives you a little bit different immersive view as it operates as a window to the virtual world. So simply moving your phone or tablet around navigates around the virtual space because it uses the gyroscope and accelerometer on the phone. Then you use touch to interact with the elements. Having a VR headset certainly gives you the full immersive experience. Today's headsets, they don't require a laptop or a phone to view your content. You get amazing quality visuals and audio. This does present some issues if you have a very physically diverse user base, so you may have trouble getting the headsets to them. And it certainly costs more to get the headsets. But there's a lot of value obtained by going with a headset. The difference in empathy and realism alone that you can generate, you can't replicate that in other environments. It's certainly worth the investment if you are able to. The beauty of it is, though, you don't have to choose right away. A single publish from Cenario VR allows your content to be viewed on the web, on phones, and to all of the popular headsets that are out there today. There are native apps for Android, iOS, and 9 different headsets. Simply go to the store on the headset and search for Cenario VR. You can pull down the Cenario VR app and interoperate with anything that you create within Cenario VR. Okay, now that we've created that content, how do we get it out to our users and measure their performance once they've taken it? Well, again, you have many choices. Cenario VR itself is built not only to create content, but to host the VR content. And wherever the student logs in, be it on the web, on their mobile device, or on their headset, they can take the content and they can have all of the results tracked. However, this is an LMS-centric world, and we realize that many of you will want to put content on your LMS. You can publish the content from Cenario VR and put it directly onto your LMS. Cenario VR publishes to SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004, CMI5, and XAPI, and each of those produces an entirely self-contained zip file with the property manifest, and it has no need to call home. It doesn't require the services of Cenario VR to run. Even better, if you go and view that content via the browser on a headset, you can actually go into full VR mode on the headset itself. You can actually even publish to HTML5, host it on your own website, and run it from any web server. And finally, you can create hybrid courses that utilize traditional authoring tools like Lectora, Storyline, or Captivate, and just have part of the course be an interactive 360 video. And what about tracking results? Well, any content published to Cenario VR is natively XAPI, so you'll be able to track every interaction a user makes within your scenario. Cenario VR has a built-in analytics platform, goes through, everything they click on, every question they answer, how much time it took them to answer. We have leaderboards, obviously scores, things like that. But you even can create custom data points and track them in aggregate across all of your learners. Okay, so let's look at some examples of how people are using immersive learning. Well, the National Health Services in the UK, it's one of our biggest clients. And their most recent scenario is used at the University Hospital Leicester to train medical students on protocols and treatments for stroke patients. They had a serious issue after the pandemic hit in that they couldn't bring medical students into the hospital to train them anymore, yet they needed to graduate doctors faster than ever. So they created a virtual simulation of the training they normally provide those students in a live sim. The stroke team actually just played themselves, going through exactly the same protocols as they would in a real-life admission. There are questions and interactions along the way, much like they would be asking the students questions in the live sim. The entire scenario is timed because, just like in real life, time is critical. The course was filmed in a single day, edited in just 4 days, and then built in Cenario VR in just 5 days. That's 2 working weeks from camera roll to completion. They were able to get those students back with the same quality training they had before, but performed in a virtual environment. Vanderbilt University School of Nursing now uses VR training to train their nursing students on ultrasound equipment. Traditionally, training on ultrasound requires many resources. You can only effectively train in a 1 teacher to maybe 2 or 3 student ratio before the student can't really see what's going on, and it requires a person acting as a patient, plus the ultrasound machine itself can be very expensive. So Vanderbilt actually went through a long process of trying to use traditional e-learning tools and video to create their training, but they just couldn't get it to a level where it could be an effective substitute for live simulation. Then they discovered the possibilities of immersive learning. They quickly crafted a course that covered all the facets of working with an ultrasound device, from setting up the machine to all of the different exams they were trained on. Nursing students now go through all their training virtually and only get to the machine when they're testing out on the course. Through this technology, Vanderbilt not only solved many of the device and staffing issues, they realized an almost $600,000 savings projected over a 5-year runtime for the training initiative using VR training over their traditional training methods. So let's face it, colonoscopy is something that exactly 0 people are excited about doing. So to encourage more adults to get regular screenings and to lower people's stress levels while they're waiting, Thomas Jefferson University created an interactive, immersive learning module using Cenario VR that guides patients through the exam process to get them more comfortable with it. They actually distribute it via tablets in the waiting room so that people can see where they're going and what they'll be experiencing while they're in the procedure. They did a poll before and after the initiative, and what they found is that after the tablets were made available, 71% of participants agreed that they had sufficient knowledge of the procedure, which is a 20% increase over their findings before the implementation of the immersive module. Due to the success of the initiative, Thomas and Jefferson University Hospital is now rolling out a similar module for mammograms. I think you'll find there's really no limit to the ways you can implement immersive training in your own environment. And that's our presentation today on getting started in VR. I hope that it has provided some insights that will help you jumpstart your journey into immersive learning. Thank you.